Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ethan Corson. I'm a husband, a dad, a state senator, a lifelong Kansan, and I'm running to be the next governor of our state. Now, if you had asked 18-year-old me what I'd be doing, running for governor would not have been on the list. Back then, I cared about one thing: baseball. I left home to play at Garden City Community College, and that experience changed my life. I had teachers who pushed me, coaches who demanded more of me, teammates from every part of Kansas who taught me how big, diverse, and full of promise Kansas truly is. That's what opportunity looks like, and that's what Kansas gave me. It took somebody who was an average student to one of our country's best law schools, and then to Washington, D.C., where I served as Chief of Staff of the International Trade Administration at the U.S. Department of Commerce, helping open markets for American producers, including Kansas farmers. And then my wife Jen and I decided to move home to Kansas to build our life and start our family. And I got to work helping rebuild the Kansas Democratic Party, serving as executive director during the elections that sent Sharice Davids to Congress and Laura Kelly to the governor's office. Those wins showed something. Kansans are willing to elect moderate leaders who are focused on results and willing to work across the aisle. That's why I'm so proud to have the endorsements of Governor Laura Kelly, Governor Kathleen Sebelius, Planned Parenthood, and organized labor, because they know that I'm the only candidate who can win and move our state forward. I'm running for governor because Kansas should be a place where the next generation can build a good life, where good jobs and good schools exist in every part of our state, and where families can afford to stay and raise their kids. Kansas gave me my shot. I'm running for governor to make sure the next generation gets theirs.
Thank you, Senator Corson. Senator Holscher, you have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Senator Cindy Holscher, the Democratic frontrunner for governor of the great state of Kansas. I am so happy to be here on my birthday, nonetheless, so thank you. Affordability is an issue that is coming up all across the state, and that is something I know very much, a whole lot about firsthand. I come from a blue-collar union family. I'm a union member myself. Come from a family of military veterans. My dad was in the Marines, my brother was in the Army, my other brother was in the Peace Corps. I'm the granddaughter of tenant farmers, the poorest of the poor. My family was able to rise up out of poverty because of good union jobs and because of public education. And for those reasons, I fight so hard for public schools as well as for our working families. In 2016, I saw a problem out there. Governor Brownback's tax experiment was destroying our state. I saw a problem that needed to be fixed, so I decided to run for the state representative spot, House District 16. However, party insiders told me not to run, saying I wasn't connected to the right type of people. But I'm connected to union workers, nurses. I'm connected to people in my neighborhood, teachers. So I stepped forward and ran. And not only did I win, I won every single precinct in a red neighborhood, in a red district, and sent a 3-term incumbent packing. In 2020, I ran for Senate, pretty much the same story, but here I am, and Senator Jim Denning is long gone. In my time, I have taken out 2 Republican incumbents, winning elections in red districts 4 times, the only Democrat to do that, and it's the toughest type of race to win. I've been told I'm the most successful Democrat in the legislature, delivering impactful legislation to our people. And that is probably why I have more than a 20-point lead over my closest opponent in the primary. I'm stepping forward to run this race, and I will mention one more thing because it's my birthday. I know a lot of people like to make donations representing the age.
Senator Holscher, thank you.
Okay.
All right,
I'll
we need
fit
to keep
that
it
in
rolling.
later.
We are late. Thank you. All right. Moving on to our questions. Senator Corson, you are first, and then Senator Holscher, you will be afterwards. Okay, economy and job affordability. Our first question is about housing costs. There is a shortage of housing and affordable housing in Kansas in both rural and urban areas. Young people feel like home ownership is not obtainable and the prices of rent are too high. What will you do as governor to address the housing gap and rental prices in Kansas?
Yeah.
Senator Corson, you have 90 seconds.
Thank you. You know, this is personal to me. My wife Jen and I weren't able to buy our first home till I was in my mid-30s. And as I talk to so many people who are a little bit younger than I am, they feel like home ownership is out of reach. They feel like between a down payment, paying their mortgage, homeowner's insurance, and all their other expenses, that they will never be able to own a home. And I think that is wrong. Home ownership has been the underpinning of the middle class in Kansas, and I think the next generation deserves to have the same opportunities as the generation that came before them. My goal as governor is to build 100,000 homes a year. We need to build 95,000 homes a year in urban suburban Kansas. We need to build 5,000 homes a year in rural Kansas. As I've been traveling the state, I've been talking to economic development professionals in all parts of our state, urban, rural, suburban. Every single one of them talks about the challenges. In just the past 14 days, I've had conversations with city leadership in the city of Pittsburgh, leadership in Hayes, Garden City. You know, in Garden City, they have a goal of building 4,000 new homes by 2030. We need a program at the state level that is going to incentivize us to build middle-class workforce housing. The challenge that we have is that we have businesses that want to expand in Kansas, and they're not doing that right now because they simply don't believe that we will have enough homes for their workers. We have businesses that want to come to Kansas, and they're not doing that because they don't believe that we'll be able to have enough homes. And I want to bring renters back into the property tax program
Corson,
that was given up under Governor Brownback.
Thank you. Senator Holscher, you're next. 90 seconds.
You know, there are a lot of nuances to this in terms of home affordability and making sure people can access affordable homes in their marketplace. We see in rural areas, we have homes that are over, gosh, I think 40% of the market, they're over 60 years old. That's a problem. Those homes haven't been kept up. We're going to have to work on that. We're going to have to put some things in place to make sure that homes are safe for people to move into. But when you look in areas like Wichita, we're talking about a different situation. We have landlords who own the majority of the market there, some of them who don't even live in the area, and there are no caps on the rent fees, on the late fees. So you literally have landlords pricing people out of their homes because they can't pay rent on time. I brought forward a bill this session to put a cap on those late fees because somebody shouldn't lose their home because they're struggling to pay medical bills. They're a little bit late on their rent, and they're trying to buy groceries. People are making life and death decisions right now because of this affordability crisis. And there's something else that can make a big difference here: raising the minimum wage. We are long overdue on that. Every state around us has raised the minimum wage, some of them twice, and we're still at $7.25. We're not going to be able to beat this affordability crisis, keeping the people who are working 2 jobs at sub-wages, at subpar wages like that. It is past time for us to raise the minimum wage and help people with this affordability crisis.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. Well, as we continue on with the affordability questions, minimum wage, you just talked about that. In more detail, can you give us some specifics on what you will do as governor to actually raise the minimum wage in Kansas? Senator Holscher, you have 90 seconds.
Oh, sure. Yeah, again, I brought forward a bill this past session to raise the minimum wage to $16 an hour. I've brought forward bills previously. This year, I think because the affordability crisis has hit harder and some of those bills and some of those policies on the federal level have really hit people in the pocketbook. Oh. Here we go. And as a result, we were getting a lot more traction on that bill. And that's the thing. We have to start these hard conversations. And I will tell you, there have been too many people in the legislature not willing to talk about raising the minimum wage, not willing to talk about term limits, not willing to talk about getting money out of politics. But we have to have those hard conversations because that's what the people want. Raising the minimum wage is right. And I will tell you this, a number of people have said, well, what about the fact it'll make prices go up and costs go up? Costs have already gone up. We have not kept pace with our minimum wage. And there's a number of people out there that will tell you, hey, money isn't the way to happiness. That's what the other side likes to tell us. But you know what? I'm a lot happier when I can pay my bills, and I'm a lot less stressed. It is past time again for us to raise the minimum wage, and I will fight for that and fight for that over and over, and I'm bringing people to the table on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. Senator Corson, same question. Specifics on what you will do as governor to help raise the minimum wage.
You know, raising the minimum wage has been a passion of mine from my first days in the Kansas Senate. I'm really proud that I have brought forth every single year that I've been in the Kansas Senate legislation to raise the minimum wage in Kansas. If you just Google my name and minimum wage, you'll find dozens and dozens of articles going back way before I started to run for governor, because this is a moral and economic imperative for our state. It is wrong, and it is not who we want to be as Kansans, that somebody could be working full-time in Kansas and living in poverty. It is just shameful. So I was excited that my colleague, when she decided to run for governor, decided to join me in this fight, because it is truly going to take all of us to get this done. I look forward to signing a minimum wage increase into law as governor. And you know, one difference between our respective bills is that my colleague's bill doesn't cover tipped workers. It leaves them out. My bill does. I think that people who work for tips for a living deserve the dignity of not living in poverty wages. They deserve to have their minimum wage raised just like hourly workers do. That's what my bill does, and that's a difference in this race.
Thank you, Senator Corson. We're going to shift to the environment here, and you will start. You'll have 90 seconds. We're going to talk about the water crisis here in Kansas. Kansas has a severe water crisis, and the high Water Plains aquifer supplies 90% of the fresh water in the state and is rapidly depleting. Some projects say that, projections that is, say that Western Kansas could see water supply run out in close to 20 years. What will you do to address this and pick up where the governor, current Governor Kelly's administration has left off? Senator Corson, you have 90 seconds.
You know, thank you. Water should not be a partisan issue. This is a basic function of government to preserve and protect our water supply for clean drinking water, for our agricultural economy, and for our future generations. We had a major win in the legislature last year when we were able to establish a task force on water. We finally got the right people in the room to come together and look at this issue. We have experts, we have agriculture, we have all the right people. That joint task force is going to issue a report at the end of the year. Here's what the next governor needs to do on water. We need to have a dedicated funding stream to implement those recommendations. Our challenge with water has not been that we don't have ideas or that we don't know what to do. It has been that when we have left water funding as part of the general budget, it is always the first thing that gets cut as soon as times get tight. Think about how we fund our transportation system across the state. We don't fund that out of the general budget. We have a dedicated funding stream from federal funds, from our motor fuels tax and from our sales tax that go right into our transportation system. We need to do the exact same thing for water so that way our funding is not going up and down every year, and we can actually make the kind of long-term planning and long-term commitments that we need to solve this water crisis. The problem is not that we don't know what to do. The problem is we haven't consistently funded. I will identify a permanent funding stream as governor, and I will fix the water crisis.
Thank you, Senator Corson. Senator Holscher, you're next, 90 seconds. What will you do to address the water crisis and pick up where Governor Kelly's administration has left off?
So every year after session gets out, I go across the state doing town halls, usually 8 or 10 of them. This past year, I will tell you, the number of town halls I did was off the charts. The demand for people to be seen and heard just increased. And the issue I was starting to hear more and more about this past year was water. And I will tell you, it has finally hit the point where people are really taking notice. And we have to invest in technology that's out there. A lot of our farmers are already using it. Farmers know what they need to do. I'm from the farm. I mean, there's so much time and research that's put into trying to make things more economical. And we have to help the farmers get that technology spread to other parts of the state. Additionally, I will work to fully fund the water plan. I started on that my first session in the House in 2017. We put together a great plan. It did not get funded under Brownback. With me as governor, it will get funded. Now, something else we need to talk about are data centers, because we keep hearing a lot about that. And I will tell you, there's been a huge push on data centers. and this has been moving fast. Initially, I was open to thinking about, okay, we've got to look at these opportunities and see what's out there. But as time has gone on, we are seeing more and more about the negative impacts. And I very much appreciate the Kansas Farmers Union policy that they've adopted, that we have to keep in mind the locating of data centers should not be on productive soils, and that the development of data centers increases electricity rates, causes burnouts, and uses so much of our water. So we have to be mindful as we are moving forward and protecting our heartland and protecting our farmers.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. All right, we are going to move on to a new topic here. We are going to talk about the latest bathroom bill from legislation. The latest legislation, Kansas passed a disgraceful and bigoted new law targeting the trans community. What will you do to undo this law or guarantee protections for the LGBTQIA plus community from further persecution? Senator Holscher, you have 90 seconds.
Thank you for the question. I'm the only one in this race that if you go back and look at the videos, I'm the only one you will find standing up and pushing back against those bills attacking LGBTQ populations. I'm the only one that you will find standing up and pushing back against the bills that are targeted not just to LGBTQA populations, but minorities through ICE activity. And I will tell you this, most Kansans agree with us. They want the government out of this. They want the government out of LGBTQA population lives. They are tired of these culture wars. But I'll tell you this, the other side, they love spending time there. And why is that? Maybe they don't know how to solve the problems we're facing. So they keep going back to the culture war issues. And this past session, instead of solving actual issues of affordability and putting more money in your pockets, what did we get? We got this bathroom bill. We got 2 Charlie Kirk bills. None of those are going to put money in your pockets. I was bringing forward bills to do that, to help us with affordable access to health care, child care, and housing. And I will continue to fight for everyone's rights under the law. And I will also lead an administration that focuses on what the government should actually be doing, improving the lives of Kansans, holding corporations accountable, raising wages, lowering costs, and funding our schools.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. Senator Corson, same question. What will you do to undo this law or guarantee protections for the LGBTQIA plus community from further persecution? 90 seconds.
You know, I've been a leader in this fight since I joined the legislature in 2021. The very first speech that I ever gave on the Senate floor was speaking out against a harmful bill targeting trans children in Kansas. I am proud to have been endorsed by Equality Kansas in both of my state Senate campaigns. I voted against the bathroom bill this session. I was proud that Governor Kelly vetoed it. And as governor, I will always use my voice, my bully pulpit, and my veto pen to stand up for marginalized Kansans against any legislation that seeks to exclude or seeks to marginalize anybody living in our state. When I'm governor, Kansas will be an open and welcoming place for every single Kansan. You know, the attacks on the LGBTQ community also underscore, though, how critical it is that we break the supermajority in the Kansas State House. So when I veto these harmful bills, we know that we can sustain those vetoes. I'm the only candidate in this race that could be strong enough at the top of the ticket and have the kind of resources, the kind of statewide effort that we need to win and to break the supermajority so we can actually stop these harmful laws.
Thank you, Senator Corson. We're going to go to voting rights, and you will be first, 90 seconds. We're going to talk about mail-in voting. Kansas no longer has a 3-day grace period for mail-in voting. Many young people vote by mail while they are in college. As governor, how will you protect the rights of Kansans to have their votes counted? Senator Corson, you have 90 seconds.
Yeah, so we need to make sure that our elections in Kansas are accessible for all eligible voters, Republicans, Democrats, independents. That means protecting mail-in voting for eligible voters. It means having secure drop boxes, and it means increasing early voting options. I'm proud to have supported and brought forward a bill in the Kansas legislature to extend the early voting period, because Kansas right now has one of the shortest early voting periods in the country. That is wrong. I brought forward legislation to fix that, and I intend to get that legislation passed as governor. This is something that I've been passionate about way before I ever started running for political office. One of the very first things I did as a baby attorney was to work on election protection and voting rights cases as a lawyer. So this is something that is a longstanding passion of mine, and this is something that I am committed to as governor, to make voting for all eligible voters safe, secure, and accessible. So let me be clear, any policies that make our elections more accessible, I will be supporting those as governor, and I will be opposing any that seek to take us backwards.
Thank you, Senator Corson. Senator Holscher, you have the same question. As governor, how will you protect the rights of Kansans to have their votes counted as the 3-day grace period has been taken away?
Thank you. Of course, I will veto any bills that come forward that take away voting rights, make it harder to vote. And I'm all about making it easier. That's what we should be doing. And repeatedly, we have seen this supermajority attacking voting rights, trying to subvert the will of the people. We saw it just this last year in 2025 when the GOP started to try to do redistricting. You all remember they wanted to take away our one democratically elected congressional person. That is subverting the will of the people, taking away your voice. So I have a network of people across the state that I mobilize to send emails as well as make phone calls to voice opposition to that effort. And as a result, as a result of the work you all did, making calls and reaching out, the GOP was never able to get enough of their own people on board to move forward with redistricting. And I thank you all for that, because you helped in that victory. I'm also working with Latina populations, because here's the fact of the matter. I'm worried that this administration is going to try to make it harder for them to vote through intimidation or just actual make it harder for them to get out and vote. And part of that means working to ensure that our minority populations know what's available to them, and that we work to make sure that we get them safely to the polls. And of course, watch out for Pat Proctor. Not only does he hate mail-in voting, he doesn't like women voting, and quoted and said, "These women, they keep showing up and trying to steal our elections."
Thank you, Senator Holscher.
Get out and vote.
Senator Holscher, we remain with you. We switch our questions to DEI, and we talk about equality. Diversity, equity, and inclusion have become targeted words for Republicans as bad things. This year, for an example, Princeton University's freshman class only included one African-American student. What will you do as governor to make sure Kansas remains a state dedicated to ensuring equal access and opportunities for diverse and marginalized individuals? You have 90 seconds, Senator Holscher.
Here's what I know. We need equal opportunity for everybody. We need fair wages. We need workplaces that don't discriminate against people. And we need to stop the division. And we have to be able to get along. And I also know this. The MAGA extremists, they're going to keep creating culture wars. They'll make up different ones if they find the ones they're using right now aren't working, to keep attacking us, to try to divide us, to hurt the economy, destroy the middle class, attack our public schools, take away voting rights, and kill jobs and democracy. Again, the last session, they have a supermajority. Keep this in mind. They can pass whatever they want. If they wanted to reduce your property taxes, they could have done it. But instead, what did we see? Again, culture war bills after culture war bills. Again, we have to get along. And I've exhibited that I can do that by winning 4 races in red areas. Nobody else in the legislature does that. Nobody in this race does that. That requires establishing really broad coalitions and support through Republicans, Democrats, and independents, young and old in various backgrounds. My opponent comes from the bluest area of the state. My district has 4,000 less Democrats. That's a very different type of a race where you have to establish those collaborations and get people on board. As Kansans and Americans, if we're going to make progress on real issues, we're going to have to stop the culture wars and figure out affordability, and I'll be doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. Senator Corson, same question to you. What will you do as governor to make sure Kansas remains a state dedicated to ensuring equal access and opportunities for diverse and marginalized individuals? 90 seconds.
You know, whether it's higher education, employment, or anything else, my commitment as governor is always to be having an open and fair process that provides equal opportunity for all Kansans to help them reach their full potential. And as governor, I will make higher education more accessible for all Kansans. I've recently talked to the leadership at Pitt State, K-State, Hayes, and Garden City Community College about their concerns about rising tuition. And there is a direct relationship between what the legislature has done in underfunding our public universities and our colleges and the pressure that they are under to raise tuition. You know, I understand this as somebody who, I'm going to be in my mid-40s, and my wife and I every single month are still paying our student loans. So I understand what it means for higher education to be unaffordable, to feel inaccessible, and to feel like it is crowding out all these other things that you want to do in your life, whether it's buying your first home, starting a family. And so my commitment as governor is to make sure that any young person in Kansas who wants to access higher education is able to do so.
Thank you, Senator Corson. We're going to talk about anti-ICE. Over the past year, we have seen unprecedented violations of rights by masked and armed ICE agents. We have an ICE detention center opening in Leavenworth, Kansas, and have seen raids in various Kansas communities. What will you do as governor to protect all Kansas residents from these federal forces and ICE agents? Senator Corson, 90 seconds.
So all Kansans want to live in safe communities, and that means that law enforcement must always act in ways that are consistent with the Constitution and with our values as Kansans. You know, I look at this through the eyes of an attorney, and that means that when ICE is operating in Kansas, they can only do so under lawfully issued warrants, and they need to be respecting due process, and they need to respecting right to counsel. You know, as I travel this state, people of all political stripes have told me that, of course, we don't want to have violence in our communities, but they've also shared with me that they don't support the indiscriminate nature of the way that ICE has been approaching this, both here in Kansas and around the country. You know, I think about, we all saw the story of Liam Ramos, the young boy who was, 5 years old, and I'm the parent of a 6-year-old. And that story is just heartbreaking. It is not what we want to be as a country, and it is certainly not what we want to be as Kansans. So, as governor, I also believe that private prisons have no place in our carceral system. I will never support a private prison being built in Kansas. I will never support an ICE detention facility being built in Kansas. The city of Leavenworth got it absolutely wrong when they approved that facility. I will not support it as governor. I will not support any other ICE detention facilities in our state when I'm governor.
Thank you, Senator Corson. Senator Holscher, same question. What will you do as governor to protect all Kansas residents from these federal forces and ICE agents? 90 seconds.
Let me say this, what we've seen from federal agents in our communities, including right here in Kansas, right here in Olathe when they showed up at a Boys and Girls Club, is absolutely alarming and it's wrong. And I stood for 4 hours on a Friday afternoon as a human deterrent to prevent them from going into that facility. I'm going to do things in the community to prevent ICE from kidnapping our neighbors and our children. I'm going to do things in the legislature. And I will tell you this, when ICE started wanting to, not only that, we know what they're wanting to do. They're wanting to take them over to Leavenworth, Core Civic. They wanted to open up that facility to be a direct transport. And when that movement started happening, I showed up. I showed up with faith leaders, members of the community, and protested and pushed back. My opponent said nothing, despite sitting on the committee that oversees corrections in Kansas. I stood with faith leaders, community members pushing back. And we got to ask why. Maybe it's because he had previously taken the maximum campaign donation from Core Civic for its 2024 campaign. Additionally, his gubernatorial campaign took $5,000 from partners at the law firm representing CoreCivic. You can't say you're against private prisons or ICE detention facilities when your campaigns and personal life are intertwined with that very business. I have consistently stood with the community opposing
Senator
ICE
Holscher.
overreach. I have never taken CoreCivic money and never will.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. All right, we will, thank you. We will move on to abortion and health care. We are down to our final 3 questions, folks. Thank you again for your patience and flexibility. We are moving along nicely, so let's keep things going. All right, Senator Holscher, you will start us off. This is about abortion. In 2022, Kansas voted down the proposed constitutional amendment to ban abortions in our state, but the legislature continues to pass bills to infringe upon women's health care rights and privacy. So as Governor Kelly has vetoed all of these bad pieces of legislation. As governor, what will you do to protect the right of abortion here in Kansas? Governor Holscher, you have 90 seconds.
All right. So you're going to hear a lot about endorsements. We've already heard a little bit. Most of you probably know a lot of these organizational endorsements are tied to who you know in the establishment and your financial background, not your actual record on the issue. And I will stack my record up to anyone's in the legislature in terms of protecting access to reproductive health care, in terms of protecting LGBTQA populations, and protecting people from ICE overreach. I'm the only candidate on the stage who has consistently stood up on the Senate floor every time these bills have come forward to take away access to reproductive health care. We need a Democrat nominee and a governor who won't let politics scare them away from speaking up on the issues that matter to Kansans. And I'm the only candidate in this race that does that. Kansans decided this issue, 2022. It was a hard-fought victory. I knocked thousands of doors that summer. I did so much work, there was literally a television crew following me. The fight for reproductive health care, though, comes down to this. We got to flip some seats. They're going to keep attacking this every year until we do that. We have to address maternity access. Part of our state, you got to drive 2 and 3 hours. Medicaid expansion will improve that situation. And again, this extremist body, they're not going to relent. And that's why I'm focused on winning this race, as well as committed to flipping seats in the House. As governor, I'll veto bills that prohibit access. On this issue, I have the lived experience of knowing what it feels like to think your rights might be taken away with every election. That's something my opponents can only read about.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. Senator Corson, you're next. What will you do as governor to protect the rights to abortion in Kansas? You have 90 seconds.
Thank you. I do want to respond briefly to something my colleague said about CoreCivic. I want everybody here to understand this. My gubernatorial campaign has never taken money from CoreCivic. I never will take money from CoreCivic. I have always opposed private prisons. I have always opposed the ICE detention facility in Leavenworth, and I have made that crystal clear from day one. When our state Senate campaign received a contribution from CoreCivic in 2023, it came to our P.O. box. It was processed along with the many other checks that we received toward the end of the year. When it was brought to our attention, we refunded the money in full and put it back into charity in our community. So I want you to know that about me and CoreCivic. My gubernatorial campaign has never and will never take money from CoreCivic, and as governor, I will never support a private prison. I will never support an ICE detention facility. And I want to be clear on reproductive rights. Reproductive rights are at stake this August with the amendment about justices, and they are at stake in this November. And that is why it is so important that we have a Democratic candidate who can win the general election. Look, our country was rocked when Roe versus Wade was overturned in June 2022. My wife Jenna and I, like so many of you in this room, went out and knocked on doors, talked to our friends and neighbors. And there's a reason that Planned Parenthood has endorsed me in this race, because they know I'm the only candidate who can win in November and protect reproductive rights.
We remain with you with the next question. This will be Medicaid expansion. Quite simply, what will you do as governor to get Medicaid expansion done in Kansas? 90 seconds.
Yeah. Medicaid expansion is a moral and economic imperative for our state. Yeah. And I know there are people out there who say, Governor Kelly tried so hard to get this done over so many years, and she wasn't able to do it. What makes you think that you can do it? I will tell you what. I think about what happened in North Carolina. You had a Democratic governor, Governor Roy Cooper. You had a Republican legislature. Governor Cooper worked for 7 years tirelessly to build the support for Medicaid expansion, and he finally got it done. The lesson that I took from that is you can never give up. You can never leave the fight for Medicaid expansion. So as governor, I will continue to put my shoulder to the wheel. I will continue to use my platform and the bully pulpit of being governor to travel all over the state to talk to Kansans about why we need Medicaid expansion. But you also need somebody who has the relationships and the record of being able to work across the aisle in the legislature to get something big like that done. I'm the candidate who can do that. I'm also the candidate who can build the grassroots support, the organization, and the resources across the state to break the supermajority so we can bring people to the table in a different way than we've been able to before.
Thank you, Senator Corson. Senator Holscher, what will you do as governor to get Medicaid expansion done in Kansas? 90 seconds.
Yeah, I'm actually the only person in this race that has gotten Medicaid expansion passed. My very first term, I worked with a bipartisan coalition, and we got it done. Brownback vetoed it. Unfortunately, legislative leadership has done everything they can to keep it from moving forward. But I tell you what, I have a plan on this. And here's a couple things you need to know. Dan Hawkins, he won't be back next year in the House. One of the major obstructions to Medicaid expansion, and I'm already out there working with new candidates to help them flip those seats and turn them from red to blue. And in terms of working across the aisle, there is no one in this race who has gotten more bills passed that I've introduced myself. And I've been told, actually, I'm the most successful Democrat, period, in terms of getting bills that I've introduced to the finish line. That includes bringing the Purple Alert system to Kansas. The work I did as a co-founder of the Women's Bipartisan Caucus, we put the bill together that ended the Brownback experiment. That was heavy lifting. For 4 years, I worked on statute of limitations reform for survivors of sexual violence. That was groundbreaking reform that puts more predators in jail and brings justice to more of our survivors. Medicaid expansion, I can do that. The path is there, and I have the plan in place. Again, you have the person who has gotten more bills passed, ones that I've introduced myself, not just committee bills, than anybody else in this race. I can get this done.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. All right, we are down to our last question for both candidates. Again, thank you so much for cooperating with us tonight. Senator Holscher, you will go ahead and start. You have 90 seconds. This is specifically targeted to our younger voters. Regardless of who wins the nomination, young voters will be critical in winning in November. Some campaigns remove younger voters from their targets in general election, claiming it is not worth it to go after young voters because they don't vote and are not engaged. This actually perpetuates the lower youth turnout. What work are you doing in the primary, and what will you do in the general election to increase youth voter engagement and turnout? There we go. So yes, what will you do to help bring younger voters to the polls?
Yep.
90 seconds.
We have to meet young voters where they are. They're involved and they are taking action. We may not see it because we're older. We're both Gen Xers, so we may not be in those spaces necessarily. But we're seeing it in terms of walkouts and things happening on campuses. Unfortunately, maybe they don't turn out to vote at times because we haven't been putting the messaging where they are and where they're seeing it. It's clear that young people and people of all ages are fed up with politics as usual. Too many electeds are tied to establishment politics, serving billionaires and not fighting to make life better for regular people. And that's something we have to think about as we're talking about affordability. I mean, you can't be talking about affordability when you're working for attorney firms defending corporations. If you've been defending people and corporations like BP and Philip Morris and predatory banks, that's not my background. But we have to think about that when you're looking at these candidates, because my opponent has been pretty quiet about his background in terms of who he's been fighting for. You can't fight for regular people when you're fighting for and propping up the very establishment that's keeping working people at the bottom. I will fight every day with every fiber of my being for working people. That's what I've been doing. Wealthy people and corporations, they have plenty of people fighting for them in the government. The rest of us are pretty damn tired of that. I am here to fight for the people, and I will fight every day for regular Kansans.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. Senator Corson, you have 90 seconds. What will you do to help bring out younger voters?
We've had a tremendous response in all parts of the state to our campaign. You know, there is a movement across the country to have younger leaders who really understand what young people and young families are going through. You know, when I am sworn into office next year, I will be the youngest Democratic governor in the country. And we've seen young people respond to that because it matters to have leaders who are going through the same lived experiences as the people that they're seeking to govern. You know, I mentioned that when we talk to young people, so many of them are having challenges being buried under their student loans. I get it because I'm 43 and I'm continuing to pay back my student loans, and so is my wife. Young people come and they talk to me about the challenges of being ever able to buy their first home. I get that because we didn't buy our first home till we were in our mid-30s. And so it really matters to have somebody who understands whether it's the cost of childcare, whether it's things like student loans, whether it's the challenges around home ownership, who has relevant lived experience. These challenges are different than they were 20, 30 years ago. And so it really matters, and I think that's why we've had so many people who are excited to have a governor who understands what it is like. You know, I'll mention one of the challenges that many folks, young people, may not be thinking about buying their first home. They may be renting. You know, I'm the senator last year that introduced the legislation to bring renters back into the property tax relief program that Governor Brownback abolished. Those things matter, and that experience will help us resonate with young voters all across Kansas.
Thank you, Senator Corson. Well, we have now our closing statements. We've wrapped up all of our questions.
Yeah, I read it.
We will have 2 minutes apiece for each person to go ahead and have your closing statements. Senator Corson, you will go first, and then Senator Holscher, you will go last to close us out. Again, folks, we appreciate all of your flexibility and patience with us tonight, and we will go ahead and have our closing statements. Senator Corson, you have 2 minutes.
Well, I want to thank the Democratic Party for putting on this forum today. I'm so grateful to be here and so grateful to have the opportunity to share with you my vision for the state of Kansas. You know, I'm running for governor because I love this state. Kansas gave me my shot, and as a dad, I want to make sure the next generation gets their shot as well. In this campaign, I've traveled all across Kansas, and I've spoken with voters in every part of this state. Teachers and students, nurses, cops, firefighters, small business owners, farmers, and union members. And what I've heard consistently are the same things. People want to live in an affordable state with good public schools, accessible health care, and the freedom to build a good life in the community that they choose to call home. That's what I'm fighting for. But the stakes in this election are real. Leading candidates in the Republican Party want to take Kansas backwards on reproductive freedom, public education, and so many other issues. We cannot let that happen. That is why this campaign has earned the support of trusted leaders who understand both the stakes and what it takes to win a statewide election in Kansas. Governor Laura Kelly, Governor Kathleen Sebelius, Planned Parenthood, organized labor, working people all across the state, because they know what I know, that to win in November, we have to have a campaign that can bring together Democrats, independents, and Republicans who believe in common sense, freedom, and opportunity. I'm proud of the campaign we built. We have the support, the organization, and the resources that we need to compete and to win. But more than that, we have a reason to win, to protect what matters, to expand opportunity, and to make sure that every child in Kansas gets a fair shot. I'd be honored to earn your support.
Senator Corson, thank you. Senator Holscher, you have 2 minutes for your final remarks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today. Thank you all for being here. You're likely going to hear a lot about endorsements in this race, and I'll tell you, I've got over 150 of them. Ultimately, I know that isn't what makes a difference to people. Winning the tough races and delivering results does. That's what I've been doing the entire time I've been in office, and that's probably why a recent poll shows I have more than a 20-point lead over my closest opponent in the primary. I'm running on my record, not the coattails of the establishment. I'm the strongest candidate in this race because I'm a proven winner. I'm the only one to win races in red districts. I'm the only Democrat in this race who wins in red districts and has defeated Republican incumbents, the toughest type of race. Additionally, I outperformed the Democratic ticket in both 2020 and 2024. And I've won despite the establishment telling me I couldn't do it. And I'm the only one here that's been getting bills passed. We're at a critical juncture. The other side, they're probably going to nominate somebody like Ty Masterson or Coyer. That's the type, here's the good news though, that's the type of candidate I have beat 4 times in red districts. I know how to handle that, I got that. No one else in this race has that skill set. Fighting and delivering results, it's what I've been doing the whole time I've been in the legislature, my whole life, and fighting for people. And you need someone in the governor's office that's fighting for you. And let's talk about building broad coalitions. If you want someone fighting for the people, you want someone building a broad coalition of nurses, of teachers, people in your neighborhood, farmers, veterans, union members. That's who I have on my side, not the establishment. And I will finish with this. I'm so proud to have all of you on my side. Like I said, it's not the establishment, but it's the people who have been building this country and this state, and I thank you. It's my birthday today. Thank you for joining me for my birthday.
Thank you, Senator Holscher. Thank you, Senator Corson. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We appreciate the flexibility. Thank you both for taking the time tonight, and that concludes our forum. Thank you again for everybody. Safe travels home, and we will see you guys soon. Thank you again.